Hi everyone, it's Moby from Moby Motion, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use Aperture Autofocus in Blender, my latest Blender plugin, and we're going to be using it to really easily and quickly apply autofocus to this scene. We're going to start off by downloading it, you can get it in the link below, and then we'll install it like any other plugin. So we'll go to Edit, Preferences, Install, and then navigate to the Python file, and then it'll be in Blender. Once you've installed Aperture, all you have to do to see it is hover the mouse over the 3D view and press N, and you'll see this new tab along with your other 3D view tabs. But you'll notice this error message. It just says, please select the active camera to use the Aperture plugin. So we have the cube selected at the moment. We need to make sure the camera is selected. Now you can see all these settings. And let's pop to camera view with 0 on the number pad to see what this plugin can do. Now this very first setting is the focus region. So it tells you where do you want to focus within the scene. By default it's center point. So if we tick preview focus region, you'll see this tiny little red dot in the middle, and this is going to show you exactly where it's going to try and focus. So if we move around, this red dot is where it'll try to focus. But lots of plugins can do this, but the really special thing about Aperture is that it can focus anywhere you want in your scene. Not just on the center point, but on any region you can draw within your scene. So let me show you how to do that now. You can look at the built-in regions, which can be really powerful. So center region tries to focus on the middle square or rectangle of your scene. There's also a wide region if you want to capture more of your scene, and also a very wide, and even an entire frame where it'll try and focus on your whole scene. There's also right third, so if you've got your subject on the right third of your scene, you can try and focus on that, or you can focus on the left third. And if we look at the composition guides, you can see that these lie exactly on the third lines of your camera. So it's a really natural place where you might want to place your subject. If you don't like these, you can even create your own custom focus regions. So you can take this region, you can hover your mouse right over the middle, and drag it wherever you want. So you can drag it right here in the corner. Let's say you want to focus in the corner for some reason. You can focus exactly here where you'd like. But today we're just going to focus on the center region, which I find is really useful for most cases. Let's bake our autofocus so we can see how the script would perform by default. Then we're going to talk through some of the extra settings we can use to really finely tune and improve our autofocus. So we're going to click Bake Autofocus, and you can see the mouse has stopped showing the loading icon. It's already finished, it's that quick. And to see where we're focusing, we're going to go to the camera settings, tick Limits. This will show you where it's focused, and the plugin has enabled depth of field for us. Let us just reduce this f-stop. I'm going to make it an unnaturally low number just to really exaggerate the effect later. Now, this cross is exactly where the camera is focused. And you can see right from the first frame, it's focusing right in this focus region, which is exactly what we'd like. Now let's play the animation, and we can see how the focus point moves. So you can see it starts to move away, and it moves too far away. Now let's talk about how to fix this common problem and why it comes up. The reason it comes up is because by default, Aperture will focus on the average or the mean distance in this focus region. So let's look at this frame as an example. It has this cube, which is about 20 meters away, but it also has a bit of background, which is almost infinitely far away. It's very far away. And the average of those is still very far away. It's behind the cube. Fortunately, with the advanced features in Aperture, this is very easy to fix. Instead of focusing on the mean or average like we were before, we'll just focus on the closest point. So what the plugin will do now is look at points within this region, and it'll focus on the closest one. So let's go back to the start of the animation and bake autofocus again. You can see it's already finished. And let's run this animation and see what it looks like. You can see a nice smooth focus between the two cubes. So it goes from one to the other. Now it does focus as we expect now because we've fixed the focusing strategy, but it's still quite quick. A real camera would focus more slowly and it would pull focus smoothly. So let's talk about the various settings you can use to make sure that Aperture focuses nice and smoothly in your animations. The first one, and the easiest to use, is focus speed. Now by default it's 0.9, and what this means is that every frame it will move 90% of the way to the correct focus distance. So let's say it's now at 10 meters roughly, and it's going to go to, let's say, 20 meters. Instead of making that whole jump in a single frame, it would first move 9 meters, and then it would move 90% of the rest of the way, so 9.9 meters, and it would slowly get to the final focus distance. So we can reduce it all the way down to 0.1. Let's bake the autofocus now. Again, super quick, it's already finished. And let's look at this from the side view to see how it works. You can see the focus is nice and smoothly between them, much less jerky than before. You could even make it slower than this to get an even smoother effect. Let's look at the other options to get nice smooth focus pulls. So let's increase this focus speed again, back to the default, and we'll look at this maximum speed. Now I told you that on the first frame, you can see the cube is roughly 10 meters away, and then the second cube is roughly 20 meters away. And that's useful to know when we're looking at this maximum speed. Now by default, 0 means there's no maximum, so it's going to go as fast as it can. But let's say we'd only like it to move 0.1 meters every frame. We can just make it 0.1. And let's bake it and see what it looks like now. Let's look at it from the side. You can see it starts off correctly, and then instead of jumping, it slowly moves to the other cube. And it's a bit slow. A real camera might focus faster, maybe something like 0.2. Let's see what that looks like. Let's bake the autofocus. Let's look at it from the side view. And now you can see a nice realistic pull to the other cube, and then a nice smooth focus pull to the first cube. And this is a really fun one to play around with. And let's set it back to 0.0 so we can look at the other settings. So to refresh our memory, this is what it looks like by default, so with all the default speed settings. So quickly jumps to the faraway cube, and then jumps back. Let's look at this time smoothing feature, which is one of my favorite features in Aperture. What this does is instead of focusing at the distance exactly where it is now, it'll average it over a few frames, which gives you a nice realistic delay. By 1, this will do no averaging, so this will focus on the exact current frame. Let's increase it to 24 and see what that looks like. So what this is going to be doing now is that for every frame, it's going to average together the last 24 frames and focus on the average distance. So you can see it moves really nice and slowly again. And again, instead of jumping straight away, it moves smoothly. And it's really fun to play around with combinations of these, so you can have some time smoothing and a maximum distance and a focus speed as well. But they're all different ways to achieve the same effect, which is a nice realistic focus pull. Now this sampling rate decides how many rays that the camera sends out to decide where to focus on. And this is a really important number because if it sends out too many rays, so let's say it tries to find out the focus distance of every single pixel, it'll be sending thousands or even millions of rays, and it would slow down your performance. But also, if it didn't send out enough, so let's say you want to focus on this whole region, but it only sends out one, and it happens to happen here, then it won't focus where you want at all. So that's why I'd recommend you leave this as it is, unless you're sure what you're doing. So this default will be very good. What it does is it sends out a ray every 5% of the scene. So let's imagine you divide up your horizontal and your vertical axis into percents. It'll break it down into tiny 5% blocks, and every 5% it'll send out another ray. And this is in a 2D grid, so every 5% across and every 5% down. So if you increase this to 0.1, it'll only focus every 10%. So every, it'll look for further distances between the ray that sends out. Now, if you have a very complex scene and it's not performing as well as you'd like, you can try to increase this. Just make sure you're very careful, because small changes to this affect the number of rays very dramatically. I wouldn't recommend decreasing it. So it might give slightly more accurate results, but you'll drastically reduce the performance. So I'd recommend keeping this as it is, and if you mess it up, just right click and reset to default. And something to make completely clear, this autofocus app will only work when you bake the autofocus. And there are a few reasons for this. So firstly, performance. I want this to be super fast when you run it, and I don't want it to slow down Blender at all when you're not running it. So at the moment, there's no way for it to be running in the background. And also, it makes it exactly clear where your camera focus is. So if you bake focus, you're happy with the focus, there aren't going to be any unexpected changes if you change the frames around later. Now, let me just talk through a problem that you might come up with and how to solve it if it comes up. Let's say you're using the mean focus strategy and you're using a wide focus region, or any kind of region where your last frame includes the background. So you might bake autofocus. You'll see that the last frame is focused very far away because of the problem that we've talked about before. And now, even if you fix this, let's say you move it back to closest, you bake the focus again, you might notice that at the beginning, it's still very far away. And the reason for this is because of this slow focus speed. It's because on the last run, so the last time you baked your autofocus, it was very far away, so let's say 20,000 meters. This time when you baked it, it's moved 90% of the way because of this setting, but that's still not enough to focus on this cube, so you might have to run for a few frames to get there. A better way to fix that is to clear these keyframes. So we'll right click, clear keyframes, and now let's manually set this to something reasonable. It doesn't have to be exact, but somewhere roughly in our scene. And now when we bake the autofocus, you can see right from the first frame, it's where we'd expect it to be. So that's one of the common problems that you might come across. So I hope you found this useful. I'll leave links to this plugin down in the description below. At the time of filming this, Blender Market has a sale running, and you can grab this for 25% off, so make sure you don't miss that. If you have any further questions about the plugin at all, just leave a comment down below. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is just an example of the really cool effects you can achieve with this plugin.